Hi everyone, my name is Andy Jones. I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Nutritional Sciences here at the School of Public Health at the University of Michigan. And it's really a pleasure to be able to introduce Dr. Karen Peterson, who among many titles and leadership across lots of centers here at the University of Michigan, is professor and chair of my department, Nutritional Sciences and Public Health. She's also the director of the Momentum Center here at Michigan, focused on prevention of childhood obesity. Dr. Peterson's research focuses on the influence of environmental influences on child growth and maturation, as well as on the design and evaluation of interventions to address physical activity and dietary behaviors related to obesity, especially amongst young children. Dr. Peterson is a dedicated and tireless mentor, both to students and also junior faculty, as I can attest to. And she is, if you know Karen, you know she is as passionate about her research as she is about life in general. And I suspect she's also very passionate about her favorite food as well, which is dark chocolate. Anyway, Dr. Peterson will be speaking to us today about, is healthy food bad for me?
Well, Andy, thank you very much for that introduction. I really debated about saying dark chocolate because I was pretty sure at least one other person would go for dark chocolate. So I think chocolate-covered coffee beans fit. So the tiny talk I'd like to do today is about this question of, is healthy food actually really bad for me? So I developed an interest in healthy foods at a very young age, and this picture on the left is me just over 3 years of age with my grandpa Oscar, who was a failed farmer and a great Swedish carpenter, but we're up north in Wisconsin, and the handwriting of my grandmother in the back of this picture says, "Look at how grandma let her dress. She's helping grandpa plant rutabaga seeds. That's an orange in her pocket." So clearly I really was very serious about this task. I also like to have fun after school, cooking up what might be best called scientific experiments in the kitchen. This is a picture of my first cookbook. The recipe, Lily told us to tell stories. So the story I remember is deciding to make chocolate-covered cherries because my dad liked that. Now I know they're both high in antioxidants, dark chocolate and cherries. However, as I recall, these were maraschino cherries, so probably not that healthy. Why did a child have access to these live-produced products is not clear. By the time I made it to college, however, though, I fell under the spell of Diet for a Small Planet and other books that were written during that time, and have continued to be fascinated and delighted by nutrition and healthy foods since then. So what do we know? Greg did a great job talking about and really critiquing indices of dietary quality like the Healthy Eating Index. Overall, we see many studies over and over that show us that diets that are in particular high in cereal fiber, rich in folate, which we know we find in green leafy vegetables and other fruit and vegetables, healthy fats, and also have a low glycemic load. That is, they were likely to be diets that are low in refined foods or foods high in added sugars, really can dramatically reduce your chronic disease risk in adulthood. So combined with adequate physical activity, healthy weight, not smoking, and a very modest amount of alcohol, also rich in antioxidants and goes very well with dark chocolate, particularly red wine, you can actually cut by 80 to 90% your chances of getting diabetes 15 years from now. So start now at the reception. So what's all the fuss about? Our research, as Andy alluded to, is really looking now at whether bad things in good foods can impact children's health. And this picture on the left is at Los Colorines. This is where in central Mexico, and it's very near the location where we do a lot of research with mothers and children who we followed for over 20 years. It's really been a delight and privilege to be part of this study. One of the things we've shown is that lead-glazed ceramics are a major source of lead in the Mexican population and continue to this day. So levels actually of lead in children in this area, in central Mexico, right next to the National Institute of Public Health, are actually 3 times what they are in Flint and Detroit right now. So it's a huge concern that has been very intractable from a policy perspective. More recently, we've been looking, and Andy was involved in this project, one of our PhD students wanted to look at another bad thing in foods, which is cadmium that is coming into our bodies originally from air pollution or smoking. some extent pesticides, but ending up in foods. And sadly, 2/3 of the source of cadmium consumed in the diets in these Mexico City group that we work with comes from fresh fruits and vegetables. So we have much to do, and there's been other great recommendations and calls to action here. Currently, what we're putting a great deal of emphasis on is what does the food come in? So we're looking at something called, these are also potential bad actors, so-called obesogens. And what we're focusing on is bisphenol A, or BPA, which is a plasticizer, and its substitutes. So you'll now see BPA-free products, but there's plenty of products with BPS in them, and that we know very little about, or phthalates. It took me about 2 years to figure out how to spell that, but what you need to know is these also a primary source is through food packaging and or personal care products, shampoos, fragrances, things like that. So what we're looking at is whether these substances that end up in foods could cause increased obesity and or metabolic risk. And recently, either through increased, well, I won't go into the mechanisms in interest of time, it's 1 minute, I'm almost there. We have shown that phthalates in food packaging and in personal care products in the Mexican girls who are now adolescents is related to their cardiometabolic risk. So they have elevated unhealthy fats in their bloods, which means later heart disease risk later. But we also cared about what, I had some animations there. What we might see in the mothers, and we were fairly convinced that these exposures also during pregnancy. So we have stored pee. It's frozen, it's in the refrigerator, it's in the freezers, right? Just below Andy's office and below my office. So we got that pee out of the freezer, and we spent a lot of money, and we analyzed that pee. So what we found is that indeed, if you use a different biomarker, which is a new technology called metabolomics, which is really a snapshot of all the products of metabolism in your blood, or it could be in your pee or other body substances, but we looked at blood, is indeed associated with their girls in adolescence having a higher sort of perturbations in their lipids. Now, there's no way to say that correctly. But that far right column, this is a heat map, which is basically a very, very large correlation matrix, shows that when you aggregate all these phthalates that are the ones that are most commonly found in food packaging, they light up all the lipid pathways and other nutrient pathways, but primarily in girls, not in boys. Posed. There's other things that boys are. So, in closing, are healthy foods bad for me? Choose all that apply. This is a multiple choice. Yes, which is really the option. Oh no. No, fool's option. Sometimes, or it depends really on the age of the exposure, the sex of the child, preparation and storage, which I think we really have not looked at as much. We've looked at in terms of waste. And then, of course, other nutrients in healthy foods, which are not a substitute for collective action, but can counter some of these effects physiologically. So thank you.